Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I welcome you guys to the city of Minot, North Dakota, which is located in Warder County. It is located in the north central of the state of North Dakota. Now, Minot is the fourth largest city of the state, with a population of 48,005 people. It is the closest larger city is going to be an hour and 50 minutes away from here. The closest city is going to be Bismarck, North Dakota, which is going to be an hour and 50 minutes away. Yeah. Now, this city was founded in 1886 and incorporated on the 16th of July in 1887. Now, the population here, so yeah, this city was founded in 1886 during the construction of James J. Hill of the Great Northern Railway. At James J. Hill, Great Northern Railway. And the population has grown at a rate of 23.3% as of the 2020 census. Now, as of the 2021 population measure, the population of this city has actually declined by 1.2%. But for the most part, this is a relatively fast-growing city, for the most part. Now, as far as it goes for crime, the violent crime is going to be below national average. Property crime is not bad at all. It's only at 7% above national average. Now, as far as the racial demographics, it's 83.3% white, 3.8% black, 1.5% Asian, 2.5% Native American, and 5% Hispanic. Now, if you're looking to live here in Minot, maybe because for whatever reason you like this region of North Dakota, now I would say people that move to this area, they move to this area primarily because of employment opportunities, as there's plenty of employment opportunities in this area. But if you want to live here, before you get too excited and you sell your current home, if you own a home, and you pack up all your stuff and you move yourself and your family, if you have one, to this area, bear in mind that the median home price here in Minot is going to be $231,000. Now, for some of you, $231,000 is no big deal. But there's some of you out here that maybe you're coming from a state like, let's say, I don't know, Indiana, or you're coming from maybe Alabama, where housing prices are cheaper. So just bear in mind, whatever job you're going to accept, whatever wages you're going to make, just bear in mind that the housing prices in this area of North Dakota may be a little more expensive than what you're accustomed to. Now, obviously, if you're coming from the West Coast, or you're coming from maybe Florida, where housing prices are substantially higher, and then you come here to Minot, you'll be okay. You might be okay. Now, median rent prices are, they go for $420 to $1,050 a month. Now, that's what they say, but I've talked to a couple of people that live out here, and they tell me that if I can remember their conversation to me, they tell me that the rent prices out here are actually a little higher than what they say on this little piece of data here. I mean, I would say realistically speaking, rent prices are going to be a good $200 to $300 a month higher than what I just mentioned a second ago. And that's according to some of the locals who live out here. Now, of course, when it comes to the climate, now typically on my videos, I don't really speak a whole lot about climate, but on this video, along with many of my other videos I do of North and South Dakota, I'm going to talk about the climate, because there's a lot of you that are not that familiar with the Dakotas. You might come up here during the summer and visit, and you're thinking, okay, it's nice, it's 85 degrees, not a whole lot of humidity, at least not compared to the other parts of the Midwest, and definitely not compared to what you'll experience in the South. And although the climate here in Minot, I mean, really, when it comes to the climate during this time of the year, you really couldn't ask for a much better summer than what you're going to get here in North Dakota. And I would say that for the entire state of North Dakota. Now, given that this city is located a little closer to the west side of the state, the further west you get in North Dakota, the drier the climate is going to be. And typically the humidity is going to be a little lower the further west you get. But I would say for the most part, you really couldn't ask for a much better summer than what you're going to get here. However, understand, you're going to, I mean, from what I've been told by the locals here, and I've seen a little bit of this myself back when I used to live up here, because I spent a little bit of time up here working the oil fields. So I do have a fairly healthy idea of what the weather here is. And basically, there's going to be 2 months out of the year that you'll be guaranteed to have no snow. Give me 1 second here. Alright, I'm back. I had to cut on my air. It's starting to get a little stuffy here, so I had to cut on the air. So if you hear a noise, that's my air conditioning that's running. It's a little portable one. But anyways, as far as it goes for the climate here, there's 2 months out of the year where you're not going to have to worry about snow. Only 2 months. Those 2 months are going to be July and August, because it has been known to snow here in June. And it also has been known to snow as early as September. Now, typically, I would say for the most part, the weather here is not going to start warming up until, I would say, May. Now, that could be objective. It could depend on what you consider warm, what you consider cold, and so on and so forth. But pretty much for the most part, if you want to move here to Minot, or for that matter anywhere in North Dakota, the climate up here is going to stay cold or stay cooler for the majority of the year. Now let's talk about wintertime. Now, wintertime in this region of North Dakota, I mean, the type of snow you're gonna get around here it's not gonna it's gonna be a different kind of snow than what you'll get towards the east side of North Dakota. Like in this part of North Dakota, the snow you're gonna get is gonna be the type of snow that's gonna be real light. It's gonna pretty much, if I can explain it right, it's gonna be the lighter snow. It's gonna be a type of snow that blows all over the place. The type of snow that's gonna cause whiteout conditions so bad that when you're driving, you're not gonna be able to see where you're going. Now, back when I was up here and I was working the oil field, there were a fair amount of of situations where employees were driving, and either A, they got into a real bad accident, or B, there were even a few employees during that time that passed away because they were driving and they got into a bad accident, and they got into that bad accident because they were unable to see where they were going. So just bear in mind, the winter times up here are brutal. The snow you get is not going to so much create a whole lot of accumulation, but it will create whiteout conditions that are very bad. Now, as far as it goes for the temperatures up here, let's talk about that real quick. Now, you come up here in the summertime, it's going to be real nice, not a whole lot of humidity. Many of you that are coming up here from, let's say, Florida, or even from the lower Midwest, you're going to come up here and feel like you're in heaven. Unfortunately, that's only going to last for a couple of months, because following this time of the year, eventually, I would say sometime off in maybe the second or third week of October into November and all the way up until April, it's gonna get very cold up here. And when I say cold, I'm talking about you could wake up and it might be 45 below zero. If it's windy outside, the wind chill could be as low as 80 below zero. And no, I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating. Anyone that lives up here, or anyone that's been up here because maybe they got a job on an oil field, ask them, they'll let you know. I mean, back when I was up here in the oil field, there was this employee that he had to chain down a load, and he got a fairly bad frostbite just due to touching the chain, because that's how cold it gets up here during the winter. It is very common to wake up and it be 30 some below zero with a wind chill of 80 below zero if it's windy. And during the winter months, it might warm up to maybe negative 15. Or if you're lucky, it might warm up to a temperature that's maybe a couple of degrees above zero. Now, the humidity here is fairly low, so the cold you're going to get up here is going to be a little different than the cold you're going to get when you go further east. Because you go further east, the humidity gets a little, the humidity is a little higher. But given the fact that the humidity in this section of North Dakota is lower, don't get it twisted. Cold is going to still be cold, especially when you're talking about sub-zero temperatures, like I'm talking about. The cold you get up here, if you're outside for any longer than, I would say, a couple of minutes, whatever piece of your skin is uncovered, and there's a very good chance that you're going to get a frostbite. So just bear in mind, if you move up here thinking that, oh man, you love it up here, you like it up here, jobs up here pay well, you're sick and tired of sweating your ass off in Florida or whatever the case might be. So you come up here because it's so nice out. The summer times it is perfect. Just bear in mind those 2 to 3 months of the year where the climate up here may be perfect for many of you. Just understand that's going to be followed by, I would say, 7 to 8 months out the year where the climate up here is going to downright suck. So just bear that in mind when it comes to the climate. In fact, if you really want to move up here for any reason, I would encourage you to come this way during the winter. like maybe around November. Come up here, check it out, see what it is. I mean, granted, the weather in November is not going to be quite as bad as it will be in January, but in November it's going to be pretty cold. And there's going to be a good chance that even in November you'll come up here and these grounds will be covered with snow. Snow's going to be blowing all over the place, and temperatures are, and your night lows at least, are going to fall into the negatives. Okay, so that's the climate. So let's keep on going. Now, Minot is known as Magic City. I'm going to be honest with you people. I never heard of anybody calling Minot Magic City. I was under the assumption that the nickname Magic City was only for Birmingham, Alabama. But the reason why they call this Magic City is reasons very similar to Birmingham, Alabama. But the reason why they call this Magic City is due to the growth of the city in a short period of time. Now let me illustrate. Let me give you guys a mental illustration of what that means. Now, back in 1890, the population here was only 575 people. By 1900, the next census, the population grew all the way from 575 people to 1,277 people. And then in 1920 to 1930, in 1920 to 1930, the population grew a additional 53.7%. By 1930, the population grew to 16,099 people. No, that's from 1920 to 1930, it grew to 16,099 people. Now I skipped a number here. From 1900, now back in 1900, the population was at 1,277 people. And then to 1910, the population went to 6,188 people, which equals a 384.6% population growth between 1900 and 1910. And then 1920, the population in 1920 was 10,476 people. So the population went up by 69.3% since 1910. Now from 1920 to 1930, the population grew by 53.7%. Population by 1930 was 16,099 people. And then the next major population boom happened between 1950, which in 1950 the population was 22,032 people, and by 1960 the population grew by 38.9% to 30,604 people. Now, as of more recently, like back in 2010, the population here was 40,880 people, and it grew to, and the population from 2010 to 2020 grew 18.3% to 48,377 people. So hopefully you guys understood what the hell I was talking about, but that's just to give you guys a mental illustration of why they call this city Magic City. And the initial growth of this city had a lot to do with the railroad industry. Now, the city was named after Henry Minot, the town site chosen by the railroad to be placed on the land of homesteader Eric Ramstead. So this city This city used to be Eric Ramstad's homestead. At least a piece of the city used to be. Now, now, of course, you know, this city does have a little bit of history and concerns of crime. Now, when I talk about crime, I'm not talking about the kind of crime that many of you folks may be accustomed to today. I'm talking about a crime that's a little different. Now, the city was the center of illegal activities in the 1920s, such as alcohol bootlegging, prostitution, and opium den. Opium den. Which at that time it was basically a drug that people used to put in their pipe and smoke. If I had to take a wild guess, it was probably the weed or the crack of the 1920s. I don't really know a lot about my drugs. I'm just speculating. And this drug was often found in the downtown area. Now, a lot of other crimes that went on in the city, they went on mainly in the high 3rd district area. And due to the different combination of crimes at the time in the city, this city was given the nickname of Little Chicago. Now, the last video I made, to where one of the city's nicknames was Little Chicago, I mean, I want to say a few months ago I made a video of there's a city up in Ohio. I made a video of Mansfield, Ohio, and one of the nicknames that the city had was Little Chicago. And someone from Chicago, or someone that at least resided in Chicago, put it in the comment section that basically that name was an insult, because it wasn't fair for that city to have that type of a name, given that Mansfield and Chicago, you can't really compare those two cities. I mean, it's almost like comparing an apple to a grapefruit type of deal, or an apple to a watermelon. This is something crazy. And this individual, I thought about it for a second, and you know, this individual had a good point. I mean, like, if you look at Minot, even back in the 20s in Chicago back then, I'm fairly sure, I don't know, I mean, maybe back in the 20s, those two cities may have had a couple of things in common. I wasn't alive then, so I really can't speak on the 1920s. But that's the name that the city got at the time of Little Chicago due to all the crime. And Minot was also a supply hub of Al Capone's liquor smuggling. So clearly, a lot of the criminal activity that went on here was related to alcohol. Now, in the 1950s, a large amount of federal funds were put into the region. The Air Force Base was built in 1956. The construction went on from 1956 to 1957, and the Air Force Base is built north of the city. The Garrison Dam, which is an embankment dam, was put on the Missouri River about 50 miles south of the city. The city had a severe flood in 1969 on the Souris River. Souris, I can't pronounce that shit. I mean, Souris, don't mean to be disrespectful, but forgive me, I can't pronounce it. But I looked how to pronounce it, and it looked like it's pronounced Souris, on the Souris River, causing devastation to the city. And on the 18th of January back in 2002, a train was derailed west of the city, causing a huge cloud of anhydrous ammonia towards Minot and Burlington, causing one man to pass away, and many other residents were sickened by the gas fumes. This was the largest spill in U.S. history, apparently. And Minot also has a history of flooding. The Ceres River does have a history of flooding. On the 21st of June of 2011, 12,000 people were evacuated due to the river flooding. And then the river flooded again on the 20th of June, and they didn't put a year down, so I'm going to assume that maybe it could have been this past year. I don't know. Anyone that lives here, leave a comment below. But apparently, June 20th of some year, I'm assuming it was within the last couple of years, the river flooded, and the water rose 3 feet above sea level, and 20% of the city was damaged. Now, if you want to move here to Minot, I mean, other than the fact that close by, there's still a few oil wells that are still up and running. I mean, as many of you know, the majority of the wells have been shut down due to political reasons. But for the few wells that are still up and going, you know, there's people that are living here that work in the oil field. But outside of the oil field, some of your other larger employers here, you got the Air Force Base here in Minot, which employs 6,803 people apparently, and you got the Trinity Health. You got Trinity Health that employs 2,885 employees, and you got the public school system that employs over 1,050 people. Those are some of your largest employers in the city. Now, if you come here looking for some entertainment, well, there are things to do here, but the entertainment here is not going to be anything too exciting. In fact, I'm going to say entertainment in North Dakota is not too exciting. However, if you're the kind of person that, you know, you get excited over simple shit, you know what I'm saying? Like going to a museum makes you excited, it makes you happy, keeps you busy, all that, then you might be in the right city. I mean, you can go spend some time at the Scandinavian Heritage Park. You also got the Roosevelt Park Zoo, and as well as Oak Park. You got the Dakota Territory Air Force Museum, as well as the Transportation Museum, and the Square. And if you're into shopping, there's also the Square Mall. You also have the Railroad Museum and Magic City Express. Then you got the Magic City Discovery Center, the Oak Park Theater, which apparently they still play those cheap $6 movies. You got the Putt District, which is basically an indoor putt-putt area. It's an indoor putt-putt range, which glows in the dark. You got the LOR Spa. So I guess if you had a long day working in the oil field or working whatever job you do, I mean, because the majority of the job opportunities here are going to be blue collar, you can go and you can get a little back massage or whatever the case might be, and you can go shoot some pool at the Spot Pool Hall. And you also got the Soares Valley Golf Course. And that's gonna pretty much do it for the most part for entertainment in the city. Now, I do got a couple of more videos of Minot coming your way, so stay tuned for those videos. However, I might as well go ahead and, you know, just kind of give you guys an idea about where to live and maybe where you may not want to live. Now, from what I've seen when I drove through the city, I didn't see any part of the city that in my opinion was real bad, and the crime data appears to be low, and I haven't really heard anything from anyone about anything super bad or anything just ridiculous going on in the city, such as a bunch of shootings or anything super crazy like that. But I will say the part of the city that appears to have the most amount of poverty, or maybe, well, I'll just say the part of the city to where if there is any crime, it's probably going to be on this side of the city. It's going to be on the south end. So I will say, if there's any problem in the city, whatever crime is in the city, I would say the majority of that crime is probably going to be on the south end of the city, going towards town. Because, the south side of the city, in my opinion, is it's a little bit unkept. It's not as kept up as other parts of the city. But even that side of the city, in my opinion, is not all that bad. And I will have a short video of that part of town, which I will be playing, which I will upload later. Now, if you're looking for a nicer part of the city, I will say the wealthier part of the city is gonna be it's gonna be on the north end of the city, and many of your more middle class, working class communities are gonna be towards the middle of the city. Which, as I tell you again, I got more videos of mine coming up, so stay tuned for those videos. But as I say, even the poor area of the city, which is the south end of the city, is not all that bad. And I say poor, but I'm fairly sure people on that side of the city are making good money. Just maybe not as much as people on the north end. Alright folks, that's all for this video. That's all the information I got for Minot. Feel free to drop a comment below. Whatever I didn't include that you feel is important, put that in the comment section. And as always, I thank every last one of you for tuning in to another episode of Andrew's Life. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that, because I will be putting out a lot more videos. Alright folks, y'all have a blessed one, and I'll see you on the next one.